When Veronica Mulligan suffered her 13th traumatic brain injury in 2011, her world came to a sudden and life-altering stop. After a 14th brain injury, she began focusing not only on the recovery of her injury, but becoming an advocate for others suffering with traumatic brain injuries. A brain healthy lifestyle is important. Ladies and gentlemen, Veronica Mulligan.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, it's true. I've had 14 traumatic brain injuries, or TBIs. I figure many of you are thinking, wow, is she a hockey player, maybe a human crash test dummy, or simply the klutziest person on the planet? My family would argue those last 2 points to be absolutely true. But the reality is, I'm none of those things. I'm just like you. I'm an everyday person who did everyday things. I went to work, I looked after my family, and I rode my horses. Until I had a tragic accident in 2011 that left me unable to walk. I had a hard time talking, and I looked like I had a stroke. I lived in my hospital bed in my living room, basically incapacitated. I simply wasn't me anymore. But it wasn't just a concussion, you see. I had a moderate traumatic brain injury. Now, if I was to come out here again and the only thing that I changed was that I said I had 14 concussions instead of 14 TBIs, would you think differently about the severity of my injuries? You may not, but many would. You see, most of us think that a concussion is relatively not that severe. You've just rung your bell. You'll heal in a relatively short period of time, and you can get on with life and move along. I'm here tonight to say that that's not always the case, and to share with you my experience over a lifetime of repeated traumatic brain injuries, that it's simply not just a concussion. I'd like to ask, how many of you out here tonight know someone who has had a traumatic brain injury? They've told that it's a concussion, but they're still suffering. Too many. Sorry, I lost my spot. Brain injury. It happens. So, if we look at the stats, in Canada, a person suffers a TBI every 3.5 minutes. That's 456 people a day suffering a TBI. It's incredible. If we look at it and we look at the fact that in a combined sense, between multiple sclerosis, spinal cord injuries, breast cancer, TBIs are greater than all of those. That's an staggering amount. When I was 17, sorry, I've completely lost my spot. When I was 17, I and two others were struck by a drunk driver. And I was sitting in the back seat of this car, and I suffered yet another traumatic brain injury. But at the hospital, they told me, it's just a concussion, you'll be fine. But I wasn't fine. I had, again, another TBI. I suffered a constellation of symptoms that left me anxious, emotional, exhausted. I had brain fog. I simply wasn't me. And these things never went away. Then in 2014, I suffered my 14th traumatic brain injury. That one left me devastated. My world was spinning out of control, and I simply couldn't handle it any longer. I was drowning in a sea of symptoms, pain, and depression. I finally was able to see a doctor in the US that helped me, and slowly over time, my symptoms began to dissipate. Today, I'm happy to announce that I am working on getting better. I still have problems, obviously. But each day I work hard to heal my brain. And it's not an easy journey. It's a tough journey, and it can be a lonely journey. So if you or someone you know has suffered from a traumatic brain injury or a concussion, know that there are places that you can go and there's things that you can do. But the first thing you need to do is seek out the appropriate medical attention immediately. Reach out to others who have experienced the path of TBI for support and guidance. And if you simply don't know where to turn, then reach out to my volunteer group, the Headstrong organization, where I've begun to dedicate most of my time advocating and helping people navigate their journey to recovery through TBI. Because we're all, as we know, TBI is a life-altering event, and it can be very isolating. So if you are there and you're in this position where this is happening, please feel free to reach out to the Headstrong organization, because I know it's not just a concussion. Thank you.